Hello everybody, this is Tom from the UBR, and welcome to the Unbiased Review of Destiny. If you haven't at least heard of Destiny, then you live under a rock. It's a first-person shooter made by Bungie Studios, the people that brought Xbox players Halo. And even a person who prefers a PS4 to an Xbox One has to admit that Halo was one of the best things about Microsoft and one of the best franchises of all time, despite Halo 4. But anyways, that game wasn't even made by Bungie. But my point is, the game was very anticipated. So did it live up to the hype? While I'm impartial, since I vowed to never get hyped for a game since Watch Dogs, many people were looking forward to Destiny. So here's the review of Destiny for the PlayStation 4. Okay, so let's knock out the story. You wake up in a character you create as your ghost revives you from the dead. You're told you don't know your own backstory, and you're sent off to seek refuge in what you're led to believe is Russia, although I mistook it for Detroit by accident. Couldn't tell the difference. So you undertake a quest to remove the fallen monstrous enemies that took over Earth, and try not to remove the threat from you're trying to remove the threat from Earth, Moon, Venus, Mars, and you interact with characters in a story with no purpose other than taking my money. The narrative is overall kind of weak and doesn't compel you whatsoever. For example, there are multiple moments where the few cutscenes in the game bring up more questions than answers.
There was a time when we were much more powerful.
And?
I could tell you of the great battle centuries ago.
Yeah, I could tell you. How about you tell me?
I could tell you of the power of the darkness, its ancient enemy.
God damn it, stop setting up your DLCs and tell me! Jesus Christ! Moving on!
Alright.
My point being, Destiny doesn't have a compelling narrative. The lady thing that stalks you on the moon is just set up for more DLC, and now since I kinda like the game, I'm gonna get suckered into buying it. Great. Thanks, Activision. Thanks a lot! But anyway, the story is non-existent with vague cutscenes that leave you with so many questions that aren't answered until future DLC comes out. Now, the gameplay. So, Destiny itself is a really good game. The thing that makes it shine, though, is its gameplay. The 3 different classes may not make a difference, that's for sure. However, the different supers of the classes vary. For example, my class, the Warlock, can throw a ball of energy into a vicinity and utterly disintegrate whatever's in the area, be it players or comms. Destiny has a feeling of low gravity and high mobility, which is very good. You jump all over the place, the Warlock has jetpack boots, which can help him fly all over the place, and the gravity and verticality is really stressed during the missions. And the guns are practically split into 3 categories: primary, secondary, and heavy. The primary guns differ between auto rifles, semi-auto, tri-shot, and hand cannons. The hand cannons, or pistols as I call them, are surprisingly powerful, so don't underestimate them. The secondary guns are either shotguns, sniper rifles, or pulse rays, which you charge up for about 3 seconds and wreak havoc with in a concentrated blast of energy. The heavy is either a bazooka or a heavy machine gun. In my opinion, the RPG is the best choice, although like most things in the game, it depends on your playstyle. Now, can't get some good without some bad. The gameplay itself is good, but the missions lack dimension. The basic layout is 1. Watch a transition screen. 2. Land in the same exact spot for every mission. 3. Go reach your objective, killing stuff in the way. 4. Fight your way through a structured environment. 5. Fight off mega waves or multiple mega waves and sometimes a boss battle thrown in, while your ghost, or little floating thing that's always at your side, works on some kind of electronic. It's formulaic, and the enemy types don't vary either. I mean, you had your standard aliens, then sprinting aliens, vandals, captains, and a boss, not to mention robotic hovering creatures that do little to no damage. But once you get off the moon, there are a few more classes, such as goblins, although they do kind of feel like reskins. But what's my point? The gameplay itself is great, it's just that the levels that it is applied in is god-awful and redundant. However, this does not mean that the whole experience is terrible. After all, let's take a look at the level design, the world design, and the atmosphere of the game. Although most have let this pass because they have better things to do.
Right, now go. I need to meditate, or masturbate, or both.
If you pay attention, it's really evident that the faults in the game aren't because of Bungie. Look, the Earth is rotating as I stand on the moon, I can see the ISS from my eyes, and the world is just so beautiful. The level design is great, even when you're underground or in an indoor environment. It's not that Bungie didn't care, as the care that's in their games, it's here, it's just that Activision hid it under the rug. Now, another bad. This is going to be a pattern throughout my review. Now, the missions are bad enough with their repetitive aspects, so they threw in strike missions. These are incredibly hard missions that end up in a bullet sponge boss battle. They add variation, sure, but there's one problem. You bust your balls on these missions to get a lottery for your prize. You could win a yellow gun, or 9 out of 10 times you're going to win a less common, or 9 out of 10 times you're going to win a common gun. It's utter BS. Seriously. All that time that I put in and I can't get a good gun? Multiple times, no less. Now a good. The PvP in its entirety is amazing. Its structure, all the way the match types, they're great. The most iconic mode is Capture, which is practically just Conquest. And then there are death matches, small scale capture, capture with vehicles, free-for-all, etc. It's not that the game modes are unique, it's that the maps and the way that they're executed are unique, with cracks and crevices for any kind of Destiny game. The gravity of the battles is actually very intuitive, and the gun physics are good for what they are. Yes, they feel like COD, but let me elaborate because there is a difference here. There is minor gun sway, your pistol has major recoil, or in fact, recoil is actually factored in, and the elevation and fast-paced jumping action is the closest we ever came to an always moving, never stopping game since Tribes Ascent. The grenades are scattered around. The grenades I have scatter in their own, and it's always satisfying to use an RPG on some poor sap, or the satisfaction of running around as a team and taking down command posts. That's the good thing about Destiny multiplayer, is its small nature, meaning that if one player isn't pulling their weight, your team will lose. So this encourages the squad-like gameplay that Battlefield was intended for, except in this case, people actually use it. Look, the PvP in Destiny is awesome. The only thing I can think about that's bad is simple. Balancing. Remember my rant about the guns being better than others and having more rarity on a lottery? Well, it just so happens that some guns do a lot more or a lot less damage than others, so when I was level 13 at the time of recording this footage, it became extremely aggravating that I would be shooting at somebody and he would always win in most cases if he had a better gun. All I'm saying is the balancing is a little off, but it's nothing that can't be fixed. Now, the customization. A con. Now look, the character creator's fine. In fact, I think it does its job. Is it as good as Skyrim? Hell no. But is it as bad as Pokemon X and Y? Hell no. So what am I getting at? It's too bland. Plus two, jumping back to narrative, I was thinking on the character customizer screen. Holy crap, I mean there are 3 races, Awoken, Exo, and Human. I played as an Awoken male with piercing neon green eyes. But here's the thing, right? How the hell are they on Earth? The ghost that revives you claims that I was dead a long time, and he frequently refers to Earth as my home. How did I get here? But once again, it's probably going to be explained in expansion pack 326. By the way, did I mention that Activision actually has 10 years of this crap planned? I tell you, money-hungry morons. They're gonna learn a thing or two from Rockstar Games. Sure, GTA Online isn't exactly great, but giving free content and 1 mega paid DLC? That 10 years of crap at an average of $30 a piece. But anyway, back to the customization. The characters are good enough, but the developers bragged the player armor was customizable to your preferred apparel. No, it's not. Some armor I had trouble saying goodbye to, simply because they got an uglier version with better stats. So, no, unless you want to die, the customization isn't there. Then, the spaceships that help you explore the known Destiny universe. Okay, that is complete bullshit. The spaceships are just loading screens. Sure, you can customize the loading screen, which I did, but seriously? Don't say you're going to be expanding the universe in your own ship when it's just a loading screen. Most of the time during the loading screen, I had to rush to heat up some ramen. Or, you know, do something else, or...
I need to meditate. Or master. Or both.
Point is, the loading screen doesn't really do much, and your spaceship customization seems wasted. However, one thing to the game's credit, during some of the cutscenes, or the few that there actually are, the character models look natural. Look, if you were watching a playthrough or you didn't know that there was a character customizer, you wouldn't know the difference. And in games like Mass Effect, WW2K14, and Skyrim, that really isn't the case. They look out of place and they don't really look natural. So to the game's credit, the character customizer isn't as bad as I make it seem. Now, the hub world itself is called the Tower, and it's the last safe place on Earth. It's a city where you go to either make friends, collect bounties, etc. The tower itself, though, feels cramped and small, although the main lobby makes a great place for dance-offs. Now, my conclusion. Look, Destiny is a good game, so I want to start this out gently. But it has a lot of issues that really did drag it down. For example, the gunplay was great, the physics were awesome, the detail put into the world is a contender for most games released today. But at least that's more than I can say for Watch Dogs. But anyway, the PvP was awesome, and the PvE is fun despite its repetitive aspects. But still, the game will not get a pass on me for its lazy storytelling, the not-so-subtle DLC marketing, the way the game forces you to practically empty your wallets. Look, I already paid $60 for Destiny, $50 for PS Plus, and all sorts of things for other games, not to mention, you know, actual priorities. I mean, seriously? 10 years? My god. It's not that they didn't have their priorities straight, it's that Activision didn't have their priorities straight. I'm gonna come out and say that I wasn't hyped for Destiny. It was in the back of my mind, yes, but I picked it up and played it without high expectations. And that's the problem with most reviewers. They picked it up expecting Jesus Christ himself to come out of the box. And quite frankly, that was dumb to start with. The game isn't bad, it's just... then again, it isn't the second coming. Because like with Watch Dogs, everything that it gets right becomes counteracted by something it does wrong. If it weren't for the gunplay, the PvP... if it weren't for the gunplay, the PvP... Destiny would get a 5, but since the gameplay itself is really strong, Destiny by Bungie Studios, it'll get a very lenient 7 out of 10. I mean, don't hate me for this. Destiny is the game I played the most hours-wise on my PS4. I actually checked my logs. It's a fun game, it's just far from what it could have been. Thanks guys, and see you guys on the next show for an expansion pack 672 of Destiny. Good night, everybody.